was certainly prepared for a lot worse of an introduction than that. But yeah, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so I'm up here today to talk about what is NAC. I'm not really going to talk about what is NAC. I'm going to talk about what we've been doing lately at NAC. And that's really to try and understand the geology and the controls on mineralization there. So that's kind of what we've been working on hardest lately, and here we go. Just a quick intro, some acknowledgements. First of all, I want to acknowledge the Lake Babine Nation. Great folks to work with and great partners so far. We're working on their traditional territory, and we look forward to continuing work there. A few other folks to mention here. A couple of guys surrounding the old guy with very little hair, or two guys with a lot of hair, and they're I think in the room, they're at the meeting. Dave Hope and Neil Prowse. And Dave may be wearing a red vest, he seems to always have it on, at least in these photos. Flanking with myself, Alan Wilson, who's been a lot of help to us just lately. Forward-looking statement, I'm making some as we move forward. So here we are in the Babine Porphyry belt. It's an Eocene belt, and it's getting quite a bit of attention lately. We got some good neighbors up that way. First of all, AMEGF has a very large land position. You can see relative to us, a very, very large land position, but ours is actually sufficiently large, I'll have you know. And then some other neighbors that are well funded. AMEGF is well funded by Boleyn, so it's going to get a lot more attention here shortly, and Freeport is helping out the guys farther north. And just so you know, we are near Smithers. I'm not going to dwell on the regional geology tectonics, strangely enough. One of the things about this belt is there's not great exposure, so I'm not going to talk too much about surface geology. However, this is a good belt. It's a championship belt, in fact. And one thing to know is, or to think about, is, what's just below the buckle, and often that is the crown jewels. And I think we might have the crown jewels. So I borrowed this slide from our neighbors. Nice map of airborne mag that AMEGF put out recently, and I just wanted to highlight, the size of the property. So, not huge, but there we are, kind of right in the middle there, and but it's a good one. And so I'm not actually going to dwell today either on the previous geology, but this is a rediscovery. So this property has been known for quite some time. Miranda, I think, discovered it using stream sediment sampling and following that up. And you can see it actually has been drilled a lot. This is an older image from 2002. So you can see the old drill path. It's been drilled a number of times by various folks. Miranda included Hera, H-E-R-A. In the 90s, Copper Ridge did 3 or 4 holes, I think in 2008 or so, and it's right near NAC Lake, Mineralization Lake. So a good place to work, quite different than the property you saw in the previous talk, but in its own way, a very scenic place. It's great to see a few clear cuts and things like that. And with that in mind, a more recent image shows a clear cut right where we've had our main focus. So, great in that you can drive right to the drill sites, and you can do that all year long. So, big advantage that way, working in this part of the world. Very good infrastructure. So NAC has been known for a long time, and I think one of the key things about it is, it's big, right? It has this classic chargeability high ring around it, pretty much all within our claim boundary. So it's big. You can see from this, quite old paper by Carson and Jambour. I think it's in the CIM, one of the CIM volumes. This is NAC, and it's shown up at the top here, and it's shown in comparison to some of the other deposits in the area, 2 of which were mine, Granal and Bell, a little bit to the south. I think Morrison is in there, and a few other in the Eocene belt. So, it's got big signature, and it looks like it's pretty much all there, not hugely offset. So we should be able to advance something here. That's where you see. So that's NAC closer up, and that's geophysical signature. And you can see the footprints of the three of the deposits, Morrison, Bell, and Grand Isle, superimposed on that geophysical anomaly. So all there, and plenty of space within our claim group, even though it's not the largest in the belt. Another thing to note was, someone looking over our shoulder there, a guy who's a partner of mine on a few things and a really knowledgeable geophysicist, Alex Walcott. And what we see here are side-by-side images, at the same scale with the sort of same center point highlighted. I don't know how well highlighted it is on this one, but what you see here is a close-up of the chargeability. So the high chargeability is part of that big chargeability ring at NAC, and we're actually not right on the highest chargeability. So that's important to note. You got this great big signature, really complete looking, awesome signature, but it's the subtleties of the geophysics in some cases that maybe mean more. We don't know that for sure, but we're working away at it, and this is a mag in this case. And again, the subtleties of high mag going north there, some of the subtleties are maybe more important than the large scale picture. This is another one from Alex, and I just poached this with my camera, taking a photograph, I think, of my own computer, very low tech, but and kind of sneaky, but yeah, that's me. So again, that point equals that point there. So there's that mag signature again, a little bit different view. I forget what this one is in the mag, but reprocessed, and then this is resistivity. So some nice geophysical signatures that we're going to build on as we move forward. So next we look at the same thing, another image, high mag, and that's the chargeability there, and it's centered on what's known as the Babine porphyry stock. So that's kind of the intrusion that's the mag is centered on, but there's other elements of the mag in there. You can see some internal topography in the mag that could be important, and and again the chargeability. There's that chargeability high, and that was kind of targeted by the latest group that brought us in to do the work. Was this sort of more subtle northerly trending thing, and they said, we think this thing has some roots, and the reason they could say that is, I think one of the previous operators did ZTIM or VTIM, I forget what it is, a survey that showed that there were some possible deep roots to the system. So next, and just to emphasize another point of difference between somewhere like the Golden Triangle, a place that's dear to my heart, believe me, but and a great place to work. And this is maybe in some ways not as great a place to work, but a way better place to drill. Is that the topography is not harsh. So we're drilling right down in here, but the hillsides are not that rugged. So that's a nice feature. Okay, I'm not going to go through what the previous guys did for the most part, but this is a map, and then this side has a blow-up of that, and I don't expect you to follow everything, other than to recognize that you see the drill traces of the longer, deeper holes that we've drilled, and we've drilled only 17 holes on this thing, and there's about 100, roughly, very roughly, previous holes. So, what I think you should be able to take away from this figure is, we got maybe 800 meters drilled, but there's a lot of pretty darn nice intercepts. Shallow, it's all shallow drilling. That was the other point. Maybe one might have gone down as far as 400 meters, but most of them are less than 200 meters down. And there was a resource developed down in the south here, and a resource developed by ERA in the 90s. A low-grade resource, but they have low-grade resources developed, non-compliant, of course, with the near-surface drilling, and some of it's pretty darn good, and including, the one hole we did that was a kind of a wildcat hole that our partners Tech were interested in us testing. I don't think we really put it in the right place. I think the guys let me have a little influence on which way it was drilled, so of course we missed. But it, right at the top is 133 meters of 0.4, so lots of scope, in both directions, I think still with the drilling on the NAC property. So there's another, that's a more close image showing a lot of the shallower holes. Our deep holes are shown there. It's kind of hard to make head nor tail of it, but that was the initial exploration, et cetera, et cetera. They developed this resource, and then they did these geophysical surveys, which really kind of led to our exploration. And then, kind of hard to visualize this, but this is looking east. The previous one was, let me see, we'll just go back, looking down into the north. So it's sort of a plan view, but not quite. And then this one is looking east, and it's about 600 meters from, I think, that one to that one. So it's, it's sort of a 3D view, but looking up at the deep holes. And, the point was made by Gary in his talk on Thorn was there's a lot of distance and there's a lot of space down here. It looks like we're all pointing at the same thing, but it's not that at all. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of space to hide something more down there, and you can see almost all of the previous drilling was pretty shallow. Okay, so one thing that Alan suggested we do, actually I suggested it before that, but we didn't do it, was to look at the copper sulfide speciation in the section that he helped us log, which is a northerly section, and we're not talking about that too much today, but the boys put together a sort of a 3D thing, and I'm going to try and get it to spin. It sort of spins slowly. We were looking west-southwest initially, and this just shows the distribution downhole of grades, which you can see in the legend up there, and also in the shaded colors there, Chalcopyrite in the pale yellow, the sort of more grayish looking color, at least gray to me, is bornite, where you see the bornite species, and then the highest copper chalcocite there. And I think you can take a number of things out of this. Number one, we got grades that kind of go all the way down. Chalcopyrite forms a great big shell. Remember, there was a resource generated up high here and up high here by the earlier workers. And then there's tons of space that we have just no data. So, really that chalcocite sort of shell, or bornite shell, and chalcocite shell has just no control down here. And I'm pretty sure with systematic drilling we're going to be able to fill that in. So I'm really excited about just going at this thing systematically. And what does it point to? Well, the more oxidizing fluids, and presumably hotter, look to have a deeper source. And maybe it's up in this direction, or maybe it isn't. Maybe it's down here. So it'd be exciting to put a hole or two down there. Maybe more than a hole or two, hopefully. So that's an exciting thing that we've done lately. And now I'm just going to set up going into showing some rock photos, which I always try to do. We are at a geological conference, so just to outline how we got there. Not showing any of the previous drilling, all the shallow drilling. This is our drilling from 2022, which are the white collars. So we drilled along a north-south section, kind of a long section, many steep holes. So in some ways it wasn't that informative, but that's kind of the way they wanted to test this deep-seated feature they saw geophysically out to the west of the Babbing Porphyry stock. And so we plugged away on that in 2022. And then what I'm going to focus on a bit more is what we drilled, mainly what we drilled in 2023, which was to drill across this section. It seemed to me with that initial drilling, we were just drilling along, strike something, and I thought, well, okay, it's a porphyry system, it's following dikes. Let's drill across it and see what the thing looks like. So that's kind of what the focus for the rest of it's been going to be on. But you see the same rocks, up here. This is the section that Alan Wilson and we went over not very long ago. And it really validated what we're seeing down here. So I'm pretty darn sure that what we'll see in the middle is going to be some good stuff. So this is what I put together for, or Neil Prosen I put together for the talk I gave up in Smithers a short time ago. It's just a simplified cross-section down in the south. And the reason we did it down in the south is that's where we have the drill hole control. We only have 4 drill holes. You got to remember that the spacing is still pretty substantial. We're going down 800 or 900 meters. And these 2 holes, for example, are 100 meters apart. So when you're trying to connect dike features and stuff like that, it doesn't always work at that spacing. But that's kind of what we went to do, and we just simplified this. An easterly dipping section, it looks like it might be more dipping to the northeast, and then this being porphyry stock, and then some dikes. Well, that was just a quick one, and it was focused on just getting the bare bones out of it, but recently I kind of relogged these things, and all hell breaks loose, as you seem to find out. But this is the reason we did it. Really nice grade at the top of hole 1 and at the top of hole 2, which sneaks into the section there. That's the sort of in and around the historical South Zone resource. So some really nice grades up high. That thing can definitely be expanded. And then we followed that up, and I insisted, let's drill a fence of holes. So drilled hole 8 and got some pretty darn nice results. 100 meters over, still some pretty nice results in hole 11. And then, at the end of the season, went back across it to learn more about it, and we kind of went obliquely across it. So it was collared a reasonable distance north of this section and finished a reasonable distance south as well. So that was hole 17, and that really kind of got the attention of the market. So, I'm going to come back to this, but just a few notes there. Calm down, we're in the splitting phase, you'll soon find out. So what have I done lately, or what have we done lately? We've taken that section, and I think, oh hell, it's about to break loose. Yes, okay, so it is. So, it looks like pickup sticks now. It's like, oh my God, what happened? There's 8 million different dike types, and are they realistic? Some of them are more realistic than others, but just a schematic. I tried to connect that like with like, and they do have very distinctive textures. So really I was splitting to try and gain a better understanding of what the controls are in mineralization in this section that gives us such nice grades. So dikes are clearly very critical here. We've seen evidence of all this earlier in the talk. Dikes are critical. I'm splitting them up to try and gain an understanding, but just about all of them bring grade. There's only one dike there that is actually grade destructive. Every other dike type is associated with grade, whether that's actually bringing the grade in, or it gets mineralized, or whatever. We don't have a full understanding of this, and part of that, again, just looking up here in this section, is there's quite a bit of overburden. So we don't have a surface geological map to use to measure dikes, a surface, or anything like that. So it's all drill defined and wide space drilling, and it's deep. So not much, a pretty big expanse down here. So, where's that going to take us? Well, hopefully it can, give us some targets, and it definitely does. And one of those targets, I think, as it turns out in the end, you'll see is where do these dikes come together? Where are they most dense, the right ones? And, where did they come from? Both. So lots of upside, I think, here. So let's just look at the rocks. The basal sequence is fine grain. In the previous logging, this was all mapped as andesite. It's a bit confusing because I don't know that I've seen a single andesite yet, but maybe that was originally done from the northeast or the north, I don't know. But there's not much in the way of volcanic component that I can see. Down in the bottom here, there's this fine grain, generally sedimentary unit, not well bedded, has concretions, etc. in it. Sometimes some nice alteration. So I'm not talking directly about alteration here, but these things are really magnetite, biotite altered, so really nice hornfills. So where are we going? Then we're going in this other unit. It doesn't really show up that well here, but there's kind of a contact there. And generally there's a bit more sandstone here, and that gets a bit better mineralized and altered. Just these black things. You can see the odd grain in here, and they're pretty strongly potassically altered. That's sand in the background. It's not part of the core. just where we're taking the photograph from. So quite a lot of case bar in there. And that's generally the case at NAC in the host rocks. So this turns out to be the best mineralized unit. So this thing often is black. Doesn't matter if it's black. This is one of those black samples stained, so lots of case bar through there. You know, maybe some of it is primary. I think it probably is. But a lot of alteration, and then biotite and magnetite, obviously. And you can't really see it, but this unit can be very, very well mineralized, and it generally is. And I think the reason for that is, you know, it's been around for you know, all of the dike phases that come in here. They all bring in a little bit of grade, a little bit of copper, gold, and these things have a lot of biotite and magnetite in them, so a great place to sulfidize some iron-rich minerals, and it just seems better in here. The finer grain units above and below, not so great. I don't have a slide of these ones. The uppermost parts of these holes are really broken up. Maybe they're, you know, gypsum and hydrate bearing things, and they're really fractured up, although it doesn't seem to be that faulted up, this system. So a few more photos of the conglomerate. This is the same one, and here you see just really, really great chalcopyrite disseminations in the conglomerate. These are not really well mineralized veins. They're case bar bearing veins. And in other places, this one, you can't really see it here, but it's very well mineralized in terms of the matrix. So it kind of varies from place to place in the conglomerate. You know, maybe a less well mineralized one on the left-hand side there. And obviously this one is pretty well mineralized up at the top. Just shoot, sorry about that. Let's back up one more. Yeah, so you get some beautiful stuff around the veins. Okay, so now the intrusions. This one is kind of a surprise. It just kind of happened this week. And one of the things that we were having trouble with was differentiating sandstones from what I thought were these fine-grained porphyries. They weren't really that porphyritic. They were just fine-grained, you know, more mafic dikes. Turns out they're sort of monazodioritic kinds of things. And you know, one of them was this very fine-grained monazodiorite unit, and it turns out to be a sill, and it had a very distinctive chemistry, and that was low thorium. So all the intrusions you can identify by elevated thorium relative to the wall rocks. But this thing has anomalously low thorium, and you can trace it from section to section, and it's a sill-like body. And I think it played a role, along with these diorite dikes, which are actually high thorium and appear to cut this thing, in bringing in the magnetite and biotite, the hornfels, and sort of prepping, doing the ground prep for a good place to dump copper and gold. And one of the reasons I say that is because I've got this labeled as a Babine biotite hornblende felspar granodiorite porphyry stock, quite a mouthful, but you know, it looks like it came in later. So, and it does bring in mineral itself, but this stuff was bringing in mineral as well. So a really sort of a complex situation, and one of the reasons you can say that is, you know, this thing is really unaltered relative to this stuff. So a few more shots. Again, some of these later porphyries, and I don't know the relationship truly. You don't really see these dikes here cutting the Babine, you know, through much of this hole, so I haven't shown that as color. So I'm sort of going in sequence in terms of age. Obviously, the host rocks are there, the sill and the dikes come in, and then the successive dikes, and we see some cross-cutting relationships among these things, so we can say that. And you know, this unstained sample is the same as this one. So this is one of the diorites cut by one of these porphyries here, you know, hornblende, biotite hornblende feldspar porphyry, and that seems to be an early one and a pretty nice mineralizer. It may be related to some of the other ones, a little bit younger, but I'm not 100% certain. And interestingly enough, is some of these up here are this south sorting. This is the only place on the property up here so far in all our drilling where I've seen an actual kind of quartz stockwork. And it actually, I thought it was a quartz chalcopyrite stockwork. It has bornite in it too. So that thing is nice up there, really good numbers up high. And I don't even think it's been tested at all. So this is like, who knows? Does it go up and down this contact? I'm not really sure. We don't see it in this hole, but maybe it's out here. I don't think we know. And it's certainly something that we're going to chase out with some shallow holes to begin with and see where it goes. But that's that historical siltstone stockwork zone. Some nice porphyry style veining there. And generally you don't see that kind of veining throughout the thing. So now this is the Babine itself. Actually really nice crowded porphyry texture, some a little bit earlier dikes out here that can be dark, or they can be sort of more mesocratic to leucocratic out here, and they may all be related. These ones have some biotite books in them, but there's a number of textural varieties, biotite books, ones with biotite books, and blocky plagioclase porphyry textures. So you can subdivide them, and ultimately we will be lumping them, I think, but right now we're just trying to kind of work out the story. And then finally, there's these things like this one. I'm not showing it. That's the grade destructive, more felsic quartz, free quartz bearing dike. There's a few hornblende needle porphyries that sometimes carry grade, sometimes they don't. And then there's these things I call the copper dikes. And they're the freshest looking dike on the property. They cut the Babine, and they have bornite even in muralitic cavities. And some incredible disseminations like this thing here. You think the vein stuff would be running. This thing runs, I think, almost 1% copper equivalent throughout its width. And it doesn't even look altered relative to the surrounding rocks. So some kind of remarkable things that we haven't totally figured out yet. And that was just kind of went down the guts of it. And I think the point here is there's a broad corridor that really runs excellent grade. It's steep. It goes for a long ways north-south, I think. We haven't proven that fully, but we see the same things up north that we do south, down south. Goes to depth and has excellent grade in mineralogy. And it's kind of related to just to the density of dikes in the right host rocks. So where are we going with this year? We're kind of scrambling as usual, but we're about to start some more IP work, so we're going to do a few more lines like this, maybe some that way. We're going to do a little bit of mapping. We haven't even been on the ground. I'm a mapper, but the exposure is poor. This part is pretty much all covered. But we're going to go out and take a look at some of the rocks. And we're going to use a new LiDAR base. I was just talking to Andrew McIntosh, and he says it'll be coming, and not too long. So we'll have that to use. And the hyperspectral work, we've had that ongoing. We didn't start right at the start of the year, but we've just about finished with the TerraSpec zapping all of our rejects. So we're going to put that all together. Tech was really keen on us doing that. So that'll be interesting to better characterize the alteration. The relog is almost complete. Trying to get to it when we can, and that is, I think, going to just keep building the story. We're going to rework the geochem once we have the, some of those dikes kind of characterized, rework that, see if we can pick them out geochemically. We're going to do a televiewer survey. We got all the holes with casing in them. We're going to give that a try in late May. If that doesn't work, we'll be doing some more oriented core this year. And we're going to drill about 20,000 meters. And we're going to be mobilizing to site in late May. Thank you very much.